Greetings, Sir and Sirettes, and welcome back to From the Depths with me, Lathrix, and of course, welcome to our new Battleship. As many of you know, last week I actually lost an episode due to a hardware failure. One of my hard drives simply crashed on me, and I lost an entire full episode of footage of me building an airship and testing it out in the campaign, but ever the optimist, I've decided we are going to be reusing the hull I built so that it won't be a complete waste, and we are going to be repurposing it as a new battleship. As honestly, with the new weapons, the new cram cannons, which are replacing the custom cannons, these are going to be so much better suited for a true naval unit rather than a flying one, or at least a waterborne naval unit rather than the flying one, I should say. And so we are going to be adding the cram cannons, which can be ridiculously powerful and can scale up massively. They can have a decent fire rate and do a lot of damage very simply, or simply have a really slow fire rate and shoot weapons which can almost one-shot this hull. And this hull has triple metal armor all the way around, other than the top and the back section. The back section now actually being removed. So today we'll be finishing off this battleship, adding a back section to it, and then adding a whole host of cannons. Now, this battleship won't be too big, and honestly it probably won't even be a battleship by the end of things, but it should be quite affordable, as originally the airship was made out of almost entirely light alloy metal. This one is now halfway being converted back to regular metal, making it quite cheap for how sturdy this thing is going to be. And the reason why I decided not to use the airship and to remove it from the campaign is that it just didn't have enough space to have enough cram cannons to make it worth it, or at least one very large powerful cram cannon, and as a result it didn't have enough firepower for its size and just cost too much. So it became a bit of a worthless commodity. I may spawn it in later on just to show you what it was, but for now, the battleship is our true goal. So the first thing we need to do, though, honestly, is build up the back section again, which simply doesn't exist. And what I think I'm going to do is extend these side sections back a little bit further, or perhaps... Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll leave this little bit here inwards, I'll repurpose these into torpedoes, they were flares, and then I'll have this section back here come back out to the same height, and then we can perhaps use these as torpedo launchers as well, maybe missile launchers, not too sure, but it does mean we'll have plenty of space. We'll leave this bit flat, and then go back up to the end, in which we'll probably add some more missile launchers, maybe a laser weapon, I'm not sure just yet. Cue fast forward segment and me doing all the boring hull related stuff. taking a quick break from the time-lapse just to discuss the progress of the ship so far, some changes I've had to make, and a few problems I've run into so far during this build. I've been building now for around about 4 hours, and honestly, I'm really happy with the progress of the ship. It now has fully functioning torpedoes on both sides, it has 4 to 5 layers of armour around about everywhere except for the back, which is still under construction, and I've even added a couple of cram cannons. Now you may be thinking to yourself, why are they facing backwards? And the reason is, if they faced forwards, there's a high chance as they turn and fire, they could hit the wrong thing, as I've seen turrets do before, because the AI isn't always perfect. But honestly, as they face backwards, they can still fire completely forwards over this as a mortar piece, which is actually their purpose, as each of these turrets have quite low velocity in terms of their shells, but their shells are absolutely devastating once it hits a target. In fact, if we just pop into one of these, we can quickly check the stats of this thing, and then we can see the damage. So the shell diameter is a massive 1,225 millimeters wide. Although the shell only travels at 138 meters per second, it does 3,979 kinetic damage and 11,161 explosive, with a radius of 33.4 meters. The armor-piercing value is even 32.6. In short, these things can cut through 4 layers of metal very easily if they hit their target, and normally they do, as long as the target isn't moving too quickly because of the very slow shell speed. And since these are literally made for the express purpose of taking out enemy battleships, that normally isn't a problem. I have tested it very briefly against the White Flyers battleships, and this thing actually won one-on-one, even though these things aren't armoured, and we're nowhere near finished yet. So I'm really happy with these cram cannons. I will be improving them. These are just a very simplified version of the turret so I could place them down, but even at this stage, remarkably happy with them. Now, the thing you need to realise about cram cannons is they are actually fairly odd. They don't fire in the traditional sense. Well, they fire in the traditional sense. They don't load in the traditional sense, I should say. Rather than simply loading a shell, which you've either designed beforehand or is predetermined by the things you've attached to the turret, they load a shell and then have to fill the shell to a set density. The more dense the shell, the more powerful it is, but this takes time, and is sped up by adding the explosive material containers, or the hardened material containers, or the EMP containers, I think it's called, the EMP pellets, and all sorts of stuff like that, like the frag pellets as well. The more of these you have, the faster it loads each. So these actually have no frag and no EMP, and focus solely on explosive and armor piercing, which they do fantastically. I'm actually tempted to remove the armor piercing element and have just a pure explosive round to deal even more damage, but for now, I'm pretty happy with them. But the reason why this is important is that although this does fire every 8 seconds, the first shot is normally more powerful because sadly in 8 seconds these only get to a density of around about 70%, but we can always change that later by changing the minimum pack time to around about 10 or 12 seconds just to make sure the shells are as devastating as possible. The problem with these cannons is they don't do well against fast targets, as you might imagine, and do terribly against flyers at any speed. So the front section is still going to be anti-air, probably just copying from the capital ship, or perhaps trying to replicate one of the guns found on the Lightning Hoods themselves. No, the White Flyers, actually. I haven't seen one of these yet, the new improved version of this, but I know that this thing has a really nasty advanced cannon on the very top. Of course, I'm talking about the Buzzsaw. It has an advanced cannon which shoots kinetic rounds very quickly from, I think it uses the belt loaders, so it can shoot for a short period of time very quickly, then it has to reload, but either way, that would be exactly what I want to take down flyers and the White Flyers themselves. I've also came up with a name of the battleship. It will be known as the Heretic. because the White Flyers are religious zealots, it only makes sense we send a heretic to defeat them. And so, let's continue building. There's a good chance this video will only be of building, because like I say, I've already took 4 hours building this thing, and it's probably going to take another 4 plus, to be perfectly honest. So, let's continue. Can we finish it today, or will I have to finish it off camera? And so we have come to the end of the episode, and the final form of the Heretic until I finish it off camera for the next episode, in which we are going to wreak some havoc against the White Flyers. So what have we done then? What's the summary of the vehicle thus far? We have finished pretty much everything I wanted to, with the exception of the cruise missiles, which I'm almost certain are going to go in this location here. The back of the ship is not yet complete, as you can probably tell, as I'm not quite sure what I want to do back there. Am I going to simply have regular rotor blades, regular turbines rather, or am I going to go for an almost air approach using jet engines here, possibly a custom jet engine along the middle section, as we do have this whole space here with absolutely nothing going on. These are things I really need to think about off camera for a while before I continue. On the front we now have these massive cram cannons. Sadly, I didn't get any footage of building these. I kind of built these on a spur of the moment idea, didn't think I was going to keep it, and then wish I recorded it, because they are all unique. I want them to counter a unique amount of things, so this one is actually different from this one, in that this one here is more explosive, this one's more kinetic, and then these both have differing fire rates, because I want them to be special and stuff. The side weapons I'm actually really happy with. They don't do that much damage, but they fire every 3 seconds and release a volley of highly explosive flak weaponry, which can actually down very lightly armoured targets with just that single volley, so definitely keeping those and maybe extending it to the area below. I really wish I would continue right now, as I really want to finish it, but like I say, if I don't finish it now, I will just end up keep on recording, and then the video will be even more delayed. So I do apologise for the length or possibly quality of this video. I'm not 100% happy with what I've done so far, but I just need this video out there and I need people to know what I'm doing. Either way, really happy with this ship so far, and if you have any suggestions about the ship, please tell me in the comments below. I will hold off finishing the ship until this is published, just so I can see your suggestions. The Heretic still has quite a ways before it's finished, but it's looking good so far. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have enjoyed the video, then of course, likes, favourites, shares, comments, all that good stuff helps out me, helps out the channel, and most importantly, shows that From the Depths is a series you wish to see continued in the future.